In order to assign encoders to decoders, you will need to log into the NetworkHD controller. The controller's blue status light indicates that it has fully booted and is ready to use. In order to log into the NetworkHD controller, you need to open a web browser and type in the controller's IP address. By default, the IP address of the controller is 192.168.11.243. Note that initially you will need to change your computer's IP address to be in the same range as the controller. If you don't have a NetworkHD controller for your system, you can also use the NetworkHD console software, which we will show later in this video. The default username and password for the controller are both admin. Once you have logged into the controller, you will see all the available encoders and decoders powered up on your network. Without any configurations, your NetworkHD devices will be named in this format. There are 3 sections to the default name of a NetworkHD device. The first section tells you what series encoder or decoder it is. The second section tells you whether the device is an encoder or decoder, commonly referred to as RX or TX. The last section is the device's MAC address, which can also be found from a sticker on each unit. Below the list of devices, you will see the option for sending Telnet API commands, as well as a log of commands being sent through the controller. The API for NetworkHD can be found in the full user guide on our website. Here you can see the assigning functionality of encoders to decoders. You can individually assign encoders to decoders, or assign a single encoder to all decoders. A green selection box indicates the controller has successfully performed the assignment. A red selection box indicates the assignment is in progress. You can see the log has reflected the changes we have made to the assignments. Next, we are going to navigate to the TX/RX Settings tab. This page allows you to change multiple settings for your encoders and decoders. First, we will select a decoder. You will see the available options appear below. Under the IP address settings, you will see 3 options. WyreStorm recommends keeping the encoders and decoders on auto IP, but if your network has specific requirements, you have the option to select DHCP or static IP. Below the IP address settings, you will see the option to set an alias, along with the options to reboot the selected device and restore its factory settings. You also have the option to send telnet commands along with access to the log. You can change the alias of the selected device to your choosing. Note that you cannot have any spaces. Also, most control system drivers require the following alias format: input 1 or in 1, and output 1 or out 1. You can also use the format input 1-Apple TV if you would like to include the source in your naming convention. Once you apply your alias, you will need to reload the list of devices to see the change take effect. Next, we will select an encoder. You will see a list of options that are specific to encoders only. Like the decoder, you will have the option to change the IP address settings. Under the encoder setup group, you will see a myriad of settings. VBR, also referred to as variable bitrate, can allow for a higher bandwidth transmission by varying the amount of data being sent based on the source. By allowing a higher bandwidth signal, you can achieve a higher quality image. You can also adjust profile settings between baseline, main, and high, which will range from low latency to high definition applications. Along with the profile settings, you can edit the GOP, group of pictures, and FPS, frames per second. You also have the option to set the transport type between RAW and TS, also referred to as transport string wrapper. CBR, also referred to as constant bitrate, allows you to set an average bitrate for the content being sent through NetworkHD. This setting is best if you have a bandwidth constraint on your network or would like to set a specific bitrate. Fixed QP, or fixed quantization, refers to the frame prediction. This prediction comes from neighboring frames and their redundancy. By predicting frames, it allows you to achieve higher compression. To achieve the highest possible quality, WyreStorm recommends changing the default encoder setup to the following: rate control to CBR, average bit rate to 40 megabytes per second, profile to H.264 high profile, GOP to 60, FPS to 60, and transport type to RAW. Below the encoder setup group, you will have the options to set an alias, reboot, or factory reset to the device. You also have access to sync telnet commands and the log. Next, we will navigate to the Controller Settings tab. The first group of settings allow you to change the communication range of the encoders and decoders. If you have changed your encoders and decoders from auto IP, this setting will need to reflect that IP range. The next setting group allows you to change the IP address of the controller. This is the IP that will be used to access and log into the web GUI. The next group allows you to import configuration files. This option can be used to import scenes, .hoi files, created from the NetworkHD console software, for example, video wall configurations. User management allows you to change the password of the administrative user. You can also create individual user accounts. These users are only privileged to perform video switching. Next, you have the ability to upload firmware upgrades to the controller. The latest firmware releases can be found on WyreStorm's website under the NetworkHD Product Download tab. The last few options allow you to set the controller back to its factory default settings, reboot, and shut down. You can also check the firmware version, send a telnet command, and check the log.